So that leads us to our next pair of definitions. So in the previous page we mentioned a parameter, which is a number calculated from the population data. So it is a single number and it's calculated from population data. Okay, this number is fixed, meaning it's not at some instant in time, it's a single quantity, it doesn't change. But it's usually an unknown quantity because it's for the entire population. So a parameter is a number calculated from population data. This number is fixed, but usually unknown, but it's what you want to find. Okay, a statistic is a single number, but this is calculated from sample data. So that leads us to our next pair of definitions. So a parameter is a number calculated from the population data. This number is fixed, meaning it's a single value. So this number is fixed, usually unknown. Number that you want to find. So when you start with a statistical study, there's some population of interest that you're really interested in. And so if we could get our hands on that whole population, we could collect data from them and compute a number from that set of population data called a parameter. But as mentioned before, typically we need to rely on sample data. So a statistic is a number calculated from sample data. So since you can find samples, so instead of talking to everybody at a particular university, you could randomly pick 10 or something like that. So since you can find samples, a statistic is readily known. Once we collect that data for the sample, we could compute some summary stat for that group of data, though it changes depending on the sample taken. So for example, if I'm interested in the number of credits that students are taking on campus, I could randomly select 10 of them and ask them how many credits they're taking and compute an average for those 10 numbers, which would be a statistic. But again, that number would depend on the 10 students I chose. If somebody else went out and randomly chose 10 other students, they would more than likely get a different number for that average or a different value for the statistic. But these statistics then in the end, so a statistic, it is used to estimate a parameter value. So in this class we're going to be computing a lot of statistics, but at the end of the day what we're really interested in doing with those statistics is using them to estimate or make educated guesses about the parameter values. So one last concept to mention is that there are two different types of variables, qualitative and quantitative. Each type of variable has different parameters and statistics that you would find, so it's important to know the difference between them. So a qualitative or categorical variable is where when we ask some sort of survey question and the answer is a word, or name, that describes a quality of the individual. Now these can also be numbers, but they would be, so this could also be a number that does not count or measure anything. So for example, like your ID number is numeric, but it doesn't actually count or measure anything about you. The other type of data is quantitative, or a numerical variable, and here the answer to some survey question is a number, and specifically numbers that count or measure something. So something that can be counted or measured from the individual. So no matter what your degree field you're going into, no matter what type of data gets collected, all data can be classified as either qualitative or quantitative data.